Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you all for joining this morning and for the honor of discussing Srila Prabhupada's pastimes from this chapter of the Transcendental Diary. And we'll begin first with some kirtan. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana Jaya Yamuna Tiravana Chaudhary Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravana Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaura Premanande. So now we will offer our prayers to our spiritual masters for their blessings, so that we can appreciate Srila Prabhupada's glory and the wonderful teachings of the person Bhagavat in his pastimes. Om Jnanatamidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Padati Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripasindubhya evacha, Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So, this is volume 4, chapter 3, and the location is Hyderabad, August 22nd, 1976, part 2. When the minister, so the minister is visiting Srila Prabhupada, when the minister mentioned Tirupati, Tirupati is a very famous place of pilgrimage where the Lord resides in his beautiful form of Venkateshwar, or Lord Balaji. Prabhupada took the opportunity to speak directly about what he sees as the defect in the government's approach to the utilization of its wealth. Right? So the way the government is handling the wealth of Tirupati. Now the thing is that, say, for Tirupati, it has got biggest income, but I understand that this income is being engaged for industrial purpose. Right? So obviously, this is of great concern, because Srila Prabhupada has brought to our attention so many times that wealth does not actually equal industry, or that industry is not the best thing for human society. We're very short-sighted, and we think that this will bring us wealth, investing in industry and so on. But we don't see the consequences to our quality of life, to how it affects our consciousness, to how it damages our bodies, those of the animals, of the environment actually in general, and of the future. There's so many negative consequences that Srila Prabhupada referred to it as ugra karma. This is what we bring to ourselves and everything around us. We think that we're gaining, but we're actually losing quite significantly. So certainly Srila Prabhupada is concerned that of all things, the finances of the Lord are now being invested in industry. Mr. Raju, this is the minister, was quick to assure him that the funds were not being improperly spent. But just one thing, let me explain, Swamiji. We are not directly giving to industry. What we are doing is we are depositing in a fixed deposit in certain banks, getting the highest interest. Then that interest we are utilizing for Sanskrit studies, Vedic studies, etc. So basically they have an agreement with the banks that they'll invest in the bank so that they can utilize it in the correct way. We put a condition. The interest that comes we utilize only for religious purposes, like I said. The Dharma Prachar or Veda Prachar, all that we are doing. So this is very important because Srila Prabhupada has said that instead of India competing with the rest of the world in terms of technology and so on, it should appreciate the area that it is the undisputed leader in, and that is spiritual knowledge. All philosophers, theologians, and thinkers of note have turned to the East for spiritual wisdom. So certainly, trying to focus on industry and what to speak of using the Lord's wealth for industry is a complete waste of time. Right? So this gentleman seems to understand that the proper use is to invest it in spiritual knowledge. But then Srila Prabhupada tells him, so I have taken this Veda Prachar. Why not come and join with us? So there's no better use for all of this wealth, as well as the minister's talents and abilities. Prabhupada says, just join us. Right? So he's, what we would say in the modern times, he's calling him out. If you're concerned about the spread of Veda or the maintenance of Veda, then you should join us, because everything that Srila Prabhupada has been doing up to this point has been about reviving the Vedic teachings. And when the minister said that he definitely would, Prabhupada told him that the work done so far all around the world was only a single-handed effort. So we might question that, because it seems, of course, that Prabhupada was being assisted in so many ways. But the truth is that it was all Srila Prabhupada's guidance, his empowerment, and his, well, you could even say spiritual strength that he imparted to the devotees and well-wishers and others who were part of his movement and mission up to that point. All the energy, spiritual power was coming from him. So in that sense, it was definitely a single-handed effort. If the government came forward to join with him, at least 10 times that amount could be done. So now we might question, why does Srila Prabhupada actually need the government to come forth if he is able to empower devotees to accomplish, or anyone to accomplish so much? So the truth is that spiritual life, it's made up of the mercy of the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada, of the Supreme Lord, but also our effort, our independence, our desire to actually assist the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, the Supreme Lord. They respect our independence so much. So the choice has to be there. Right? We have to be willing to assist them in this most important mission for that empowerment to actually work, we could say. So Srila Prabhupada is therefore saying, with all these resources, so much more could be achieved. So this minister seems quite sincere. He says that he actually wants to work with Srila Prabhupada. He doesn't want to waste Srila Prabhupada's valuable time. But he says that they've actually already begun to implement the Veda Prachar program. And how they've done that is, they have discovered that there are about 300 Veda Panditas in the state, most of whom want to stay in their villages. So they are encouraging them to meet together and chant the Vedas for 1 or 2 hours each day. Srila Prabhupada was a bit dismissive that such a program could be successful. He said that even if they got 1 or 2 persons interested, it could not work. The recognized process was given by Lord Chaitanya. What is that? Guru Mora Murka Dehiki Karila Shashana. So Lord Chaitanya's Guru Maharaj has said, you are rascal, You cannot read Vedas and Vedanta. You are rascal. You chant Hare Krishna. So he's Krishna himself, Prabhupada said. He is neither rascal nor fool, but he represented the rascal and fools who will read Vedanta. Everyone is after this Veda, but student will come to study Vedanta. That is not possible in this age, you see. Maybe somebody interested, but generally they'll not come. Even if one is born in the Brahmin family, he is no more interested. So Srila Prabhupada is pointing out that most people are not actually interested in dedicating themselves to the Veda. And this point will be actually proven by Mr. Raju's statements actually a bit further on. But even of those people who are interested in studying the Veda or learning about it, because we do often come upon such people in our preaching who want to know where they can get a hold of the Veda, how can they read it, how can they understand it. And the simple truth is that in this age, practically no one is firstly qualified enough to understand the Veda, what to speak of then be able to preach it to others, right? Veda Prachar. This is not simply because it's so difficult to understand the language that the Vedas have been firstly spoken and then written in, but also the realization that's required in order to translate those words into meaning for someone else. It is extremely complicated. It's not as simple as picking up a book and reading it. There is an extraordinary level, besides literal proficiency, but of deep spiritual understanding. So Srila Prabhupada therefore says that without this, we're all fools. Right? We're all fools. And the way that we can actually make spiritual advancement is through chanting the holy names. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't have to take that position, but he did it because he was demonstrating to us that if he can take that humble state and not focus on the Vedanta and establishing himself as a great scholar, but simply chanted the holy names and attained all the spiritual understanding that comes with studying the Vedas, and that's good enough for the rest of us who can't even approach it in the first place. So this is what Srila Prabhupada is trying to explain to him. May I submit, Swamiji? Mr. Raju interjected. Therefore, what we did was, so basically he's trying to say, actually there was this kind of disinterest among the Brahmins. So these 300 people, if they chant 300 rupees for a dana pata, 200 rupees for him and 100 rupees, Prabhupada cuts him off. No. Prabhupada shook his head. Brahman, why will he take money? No, we are giving it as dakshin, Mr. Raju replied. Prabhupada wasn't so naive. Because you are giving dakshin, therefore they are chanting. And you stop that dakshin, nobody will come. So this is exactly what Srila Prabhupada started off by telling him before he heard the rest of it, that no one's interested. No one's interested. Right? So because they're actually getting paid, right? Essentially that's what it is. That's why they're giving just 1 or 2 hours. The study of Vedanta requires more than 1 or 2 hours. It requires one's entire existence. Because your entire existence needs to be purified and then dedicated to the purpose of imbibing this message and then transmitting it to others. Right? So this is actually the gravity of what's going on here. So worse than actually having unqualified people and not prepared to spend the time on it. Now they're getting paid for it. So this is a problem in terms of the mentality actually, because anyone who takes payment for Brahmanical services essentially becomes a Shudra, because Shudras get paid for services. So that's actually quite another concerning dimension. Srila Prabhupada will also bring that up later. So it means to say that without actually having any qualification, right, these persons are not going to achieve anything by this Veda Prachar. Apart from that, he said that giving money to chant simply was not the process. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's process should be taken. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu represented himself that I am fool, he is not fool. He is representing the fools of this age. So if we take that process, it will be successful. Mr. Raju nodded in agreement. Prabhupada said, let them come in the temple and they may be sumptuously offering of bhoga. Let them chant and take prasad. In this chanting, illiterate, literate, rascal, fool, lower, higher, everyone can join and give them prasad. See the effect. Kalo Shudra Sambhavaha. So in this age of Kali Yuga, everyone's a Shudra. Right? No one's qualified to approach the Vedas, and on top of that, we're taking money for it. So this is not actually the process at all. That, again, reinforces Srila Prabhupada's point. The Vedas are meant for the Brahmanas. Right? Not someone who's qualified by birth, but someone, again, who has dedicated their entire life to achieving the external and internal purity that will allow the import of the Vedas to become revealed to them. That's what a Brahman means. Certainly someone who's not doing it for monetary gain. So there is no Brahman practically. Neither there is training of Brahmans. Brahman means that he must speak truth. And if you ask nowadays anybody that you don't speak lie, you speak truth, he will laugh that what a rascal this is. By speaking truth, one can live nowadays, he will say. So where is Brahman? So now Srila Prabhupada, he explains how this quality of being truthful is amongst the many qualities of a Brahman is so important that it actually supersedes one's birth qualification. He told the history of Gautam Muni's disciple. This boy approached the spiritual master for instruction in the Vedas. And the first thing that Gautam Muni asked him was, who is your father? So the boy said, I do not know. Gautam Muni says, go to your mother. Srila Prabhupada continues. He went to the mother. Mother said, oh my dear son, I do not know. Right? Because he was actually a prostitute's son. So she wasn't aware of who his father was. So instead of hiding this fact, which would have been expected, so he came to Gautam Muni and said, sir, my mother does not know. I do not know. So instead of Gautam Muni being horrified and turning the boy out for his low birth, he says to him, you are a Brahman because you don't keep any secrecy. You are a Brahman. I'll initiate. So it is not the birth but the quality, truthful. So in Bhagavad Gita, 1842, those qualities are elaborated. Shamodamaha sapaha shocha shantam arjavamevacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma swabhavajam. The swabhava, the nature of a Brahman, right? The nature ingrained in them, right? Like the parts of who they are, is peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which a Brahman work, by which the Brahmans work. But these qualities will come when you make him a devotee. And the easiest process of making devotee is let them come to the temple, chant Hare Krishna mantra and take prasadam. Then gradually they'll become. I began this movement on this, and they have come. I never asked them to study Vedas in the beginning. What they'll read Veda? What do they know? But if you take this process, it will be very quickly successful. And then literature. I never gave them literature. I have got about 80 books. Not that in the beginning I asked them, come here and read books. No, chant Hare Krishna and take prasadam. Now they are interested in reading books, in publishing them, in selling them and everything. They are doing everything. So if you take the authorized program, it will be successful. Otherwise, it will not be successful. So if we want to develop these qualities, Srila Prabhupada has given us the formula. And if we haven't developed the qualities, it means that we're maybe messing up the formula. Right? So the chanting needs to be attentive, it needs to be offenseless. And the prasadam needs to be taken with reverence as an act of devotion to Krishna, not just simply eating food, basically. So this is how we will get results from this process. It's not too simple, And it's not that there's something more that's needed. We just need to carry it out properly. Mr. Raju didn't need any convincing. He has observed the events of the last few days and is greatly impressed. He also realized why things are so successful and how long the Swamiji will be here. I'll take up the program. We will. Shri Shri Radharanath ki, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Shri Lagiraj Govardhan Hari ki, Shri Prabhupada ki. Srila Prabhupada said that he was always at Mr. Raju's service and told him the key was to have a competent person to implement the program and to introduce it to others. Mr. Raju was eager to start this training program right there in Hyderabad under Srila Prabhupada's guidance. Now if a center is established, what we lack very badly are those people who can competently take up this work in the whole state. The temples are there, the funds are there, organization is there. Men who are, as you say, the Brahmins, who could go and preach this, we are lacking. Right? So that's the problem. We are lacking. And he has to be trained, and the right training you are giving. And Prabhupada said, we have the Brahmins to offer to you as well. Then Prabhupada told him that because the real culture is lost, this is why they're having the challenge. Right? There's no culture of training Brahmins properly. But then Mr. Raju mentioned that they have already approached some organizations for help in this regard. And then Prabhupada revealed why this proper culture of training is lost. How long they can go on with false pretense, these other organizations. These people, they have no idea what is spiritual life. It is a profession for collecting money. We do not like to criticize, but then Srila Prabhupada actually mentions the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Kanayalal Munshi. He did not believe that there is life after death, or he did not believe there is Krishna. Fact. This is the founder, so what is their knowledge? And Vivekananda made Narayan Daridra. So this is their manufacturing ideas. They have no sound knowledge, vacant. They are misled themselves and they will mislead others. This is going on. So Srila Prabhupada is pointing out to him that you have a challenge and you need training, but you can't just go to any organization and expect that they will be able to carry out that training. Because we've already said that a Brahman is truthful. These persons are using Krishna's words and misrepresenting it. And what is that but dishonesty? So if they're not actually truthful in their own spiritual practice, how will they be successful in training Brahmins? So then Srila Prabhupada said, just in case Mr. Raju might think he is too harsh, but if you say that you are the only man, as in Prabhupada is saying, if you accuse me that I'm the only man, I can say, yes, I am the only man at the present moment, right? The one who is truly Brahmanical, truly qualified to train others. You believe or not believe. And why? Because I am following Krishna's instructions. That's all. I do not touch anything. That is our process. What Krishna has said, we say. That's all. Therefore, there is a little success. Actually, a lot of success. A lot more success than any of these other organizations achieved. But in his humility, Prabhupada is saying, therefore, there is little success. I don't manufacture. I have no extraordinary power. Or I cannot show magic or jugglery of words. But I do sincerely to present what Krishna has said. So if you do that, you'll be successful. If you do not do that, you'll never be successful. We must know that our manufacturing of idea is all defective. We must take standard instructions from Krishna. Prabhupada told Mr. Raju of a leading man in Bombay who told him that he had set aside 10 lakhs of rupees for Gita Prachar, right? A program of spreading the teachings of the Gita. But when I proposed Gita Prachar means Krishna Prachar, so he said, no, I want Gita without Krishna. So an example that Raghunath Prabhu gave me in a different context. It's like trying to ask for the sun without its rays. It's actual madness. But this is what has gone on in the name of spreading the Gita. The truth is that when we separate Krishna's teachings from Krishna, we can manipulate them or use them, like Srila Prabhupada said, in any way that we want. And in particular, everyone wants to use it to justify why they are God in place of Krishna. So rather than focusing on becoming God, Krishna's instructions to us, his pastimes as well, but his instructions in Bhagavad Gita are teaching us how to become godly. Right? Because once you develop these Brahmanical qualities, that's exactly what you are. Right? You're godly. It's just one stepping stone to transcendence. And this is why the Brahmins are so dear to Krishna. They're actually becoming of the same quality of him. So the words of Krishna are not to make anyone God, which is impossible. Right? It's to make everyone come up to the quality or rediscover or uncover the qualities of God that they have lost. Mr. Raju was surprised. Then who is the Gita Prachar? He asked, appreciating that only Krishna could be. They are doing that, Prabhupada assured him. You can see from these big persons. Gandhi used to say that he believes in Gita and Gita gives him solace in difficult times and so on, so on. But has he ever preached about Krishna? Tilak has ever preached about Krishna? Radha Krishnan has ever preached Krishna? Nobody. Their policy is take Sita and kill Ram, Ravan's policy. Take away Gita and kill Krishna. So Ravan's policy will never be successful. Ravan's policy means he will be destroyed. You cannot do any harm to Ram, but he will be destroyed. So in the 50 odd years that Srila Prabhupada has spoken these words, right, it's been proved extremely true. Because who's Tilak? Because I read very widely, but I never came across him. Radha Krishnan is also only briefly mentioned here and there. He's being you could say in a sense destroyed even literally because, figuratively, because he's not only dead, but the legacy is also dead. And increasingly Gandhi is seen in a negative light. But Lord Ram is more famous than ever. He's been enthroned at his birthplace. His holy names are being spread in every town and village. And over 1 billion people are looking forward to his appearance day. So this is what happens to those who try to destroy the Lord. Right? They are destroyed. This has been proven. Srila Prabhupada's words have been proven. And Hanuman's policy is somehow or other rescue Sita and get her seated by the side of Ram. Therefore he is worshipped, Vajrangaji. That is the difference between Ravan's policy. Sita is the via media, but one is trying to bring back Sita and seat her by the side of Ram, and another is trying to take Sita and kill Ram. The wrong policy will not take. We have to accept the instruction of Gita and accept Krishna as the Supreme Lord, then everything will be all right. So the bottom line is that no matter how powerful or influential or great someone may be or think they are, but if they're trying to put themselves forward in place of the Lord or His preaching, they will be destroyed. That's without question. And if one is truly a devotee and following in the footsteps of Hanuman, then that person will be victorious. Ending on a firm note, Prabhupada brought the meeting to a close so that he could prepare for the afternoon's meeting with the state cabinet. So he was going to go to Mr. Raju's house and now meet like a group of ministers who had assembled there. So if you will agree to take instruction of Gita, I am always at your service. I'll give such guidance, our men, our everything. But you have to decide this. You cannot take this policy. Take Gita and banish Krishna. That is wanted. So at the meeting at Mr. Raju's house, Srila Prabhupada met 7 cabinet ministers. The ministers for endowments, fisheries, social welfare, public works, minor irrigation, rehabilitation, and revenue. And these persons were actually very respectful to Srila Prabhupada's proposals and guidance for them as leaders. Right? So Mr. Raju introduced Srila Prabhupada, and he also shows quite a significant understanding because he says that the government should provide temples with financial support to bring about the renovation or rejuvenation of religious life, but he says that it's enough if the persons are engaged in prayers and without the need for elaborate rituals. So chanting over merely rituals, not going to achieve much in terms of elevating the consciousness of anyone. He said that they should take pride in the Indian culture, right? Srila Prabhupada's message. And religion, since so many countries are now taking so much time and effort to learn about Hinduism and its practices. And he emphasized that the country could only prosper when its people worked hard with morality and honesty. Right? So he also understands that industry and technology is not the way. It's actually developing Brahmanical qualities, or at least developing a Brahmanical class to train others or guide others. In 20 minutes, Prabhupada sought to give his receptive audience a comprehensive summary about the purpose of human life and what they could do as leaders of society to help the citizens attain it. He began to say that the progress of human life should be systematized according to Shastra, just as the workings of government are regulated by certain rules. Then Srila Prabhupada explains the Sanskrit, the literal Sanskrit to them. Shas dhatu means to rule. S-A-S and then hyphen D-H-A-T-U. Shas dhatu. From Shas dhatu, Shastra. Right? So the first A is a long A. And Shastra. The first A is a short A. Shastra and Shastra. If you do not act according to the Shastra, scripture, there is Shastra, weapons, punishment. It's very interesting. Shastra means weapon, government. If you violate the rules of the government, then there is police department, there is military department, which will force you to accept the government regulation. So, essentially, in the previous ages, which we've read a lot about in Srimad Bhagavatam, all the rulers were being ruled. Right? They were being guided by the Brahmanas, who were, of course, of such good quality that they understood the import of the Shastra, and they could guide the king, who would then run his kingdom according to the Shastra. And if someone deviated from that, they would get Shastra, punishment. If the king deviated from that, he would get Shastra. Right? That we know from the example of King Vena. He outlined, and from the same Shas Dhatu is Shishya, one who voluntarily accepts the discipline. Right? Even kings were accepting the guidance of Brahmanas. He said that by following the regulation of Shastra, then one attains the aim of life, parangatim. He described how the soul evolves through different species until it attains the human form, which is meant for further advancement. Actually, the aim should be to go back home, back to Godhead. If we properly utilize it, then we can make further progress. And if we do not, if we keep ourselves as animals, then we'll degrade. So again, this emphasis is that if we train good Brahmanas and they guide society, not only will it create a wonderful condition in this life, but it will also create or help civilization attain the highest destination in the afterlife. Right? So there's all-round success. It's not that we're only focusing on the afterlife, not actually thinking about how we can improve things right now, because this existence is a stepping stone to what we can achieve. He outlined their role, right, the role of the leaders in the success or failure. Government or king means to guide the citizens how to make the progress of life. That is the duty of government. Formerly, all the kings were responsible, right? They weren't just thinking about how they can make money, get money, achieve money. Right? It was actually about how to help the citizens progress. The same principle should be applied. That is the statement of Shastra. If we do not care for the Shastra, whimsically manufacture our own ways of life, na siddhing na sa avapnoti, it will never be successful. Na sukham, there will be no happiness, na parangatim. Right? Obviously not even the ultimate destination. We all don't need to be told more about this. We're seeing it all around us, right? He said that everything must be done as yagya or sacrifice for Vishnu. If that is followed, then there is no sinful reaction. If it is not followed, one has to be responsible for the sins committed. He gave the example of a military man who kills the enemy on the order of the government and is rewarded with a medal, yet the same man is punishable if he kills according to his own whim. Right? So Prabhupada is explaining to them that you need to run this kingdom on behalf of the Supreme Lord. If you do that, whatever you do, He will protect you from the sinful reactions. Right? Obviously, everything that you do will be according to Shastra, Shastra. And if you transgress, then that's punishment. And the interesting thing is that this statement about doing everything for Vishnu, yagya, that's one of the teachings right at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, right, in the 3rd chapter. So with Bhagavad Gita being so famous across the entire Indian diaspora, Hinduism, Sanatana Dharma, across Western theology, philosophy and so on, how come no one comes to this conclusion, even though it's right there at the beginning? That proves how much this philosophy has been misused. How many people tell you that they read Bhagavad Gita but don't actually? This is not even at the end, it's right at the beginning. So this is proving Srila Prabhupada's point. Directing his comments specifically to this province of Andhra Pradesh, he said, "You are very great devotees of Balaji. Balaji is Krishna, Bala Krishna. So I wish that the government may be conducted under the guide of Balaji, Lord Krishna. That is my request. And the codes and the orders and the rules and regulations, they're all stated in the Bhagavad Gita. It's a great culture. So karma, ordinary fruits of activity, should be carried out for yagyarte, right, for the satisfaction of Balaji. Right? The same Vishnu has descended in Andhra Pradesh. Right? What, not otherwise. What is gathered as contribution, it should be utilized for yagya, because the money is given for yagya, not for any other purposes." So Prabhupada is coming back to his argument at the beginning that all the funds that are being collected for Balaji should be used for yagya. And what yagya in particular? Sankirtan yagya. That's the yagya for the sage. Yeah. And but Balaji is actually one of the incarnations of the Lord, specifically in this age. Right? So he's definitely tied to his purpose, his dual purpose. We'll talk about that a little further on. In spreading the Sankirtan movement, this is what these funds should be used for. Bringing his short but potent speech to a close, he emphasized local government responsibility to utilize the vast wealth of Balaji for the proper purpose. People are suffering for want of Krishna consciousness, so everything should be spent for spreading God consciousness all over the world. At least people are contributing to Balaji. So whatever Balaji's property is there, that should be utilized for Balaji's mission. Right? And his mission is stated in Bhagavad Gita. Ya idang paramangohyam madbhakteshva abhidhasyati nacha tasman manashyeshu kashyan me priya krittamaha. This idang guhyam, this confidential knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, should be spread all over the world. People are suffering, and that is the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Right? So it will be the glory of India if we preach the message of Krishna, Bhagavad Gita. They are accepting. And I wish that the Balaji's estate, Balaji's money, should be spent for spreading Krishna consciousness, not for any other purpose. That is my request. So we may ask, why so much of emphasis on the financial resources of Balaji? Srila Prabhupada has already explained why. Balaji's energy or resources is who? Lakshmi, his consort. Sita and Ram that we spoke about earlier. When you try to separate Lakshmi from Balaji, or if you try to separate Sita from Ram, Srila Prabhupada has already explained this destruction. If people are trying to utilize the finances of Balaji, right, for their own purposes and not for Balaji's purposes, which are very clear in this age of Kali, then there will be destruction for them, simply. Right? She's so dear to the Lord that she's always present on his chest. If anyone's had the good fortune of seeing an image of Balaji or having his darshan, then we'd see that his consorts are actually on either side of his chest. That's how much they mean to him. That's how much his energies mean to him, and that's how much we should be focused on using those energies only for him. His talk was well received. Right? So all the ministers, they were quite pleased. And they asked a question. They asked a question about Varnashram. Right? And Prabhupada explained that out of the 4 social orders, the Brahmanas class must especially be maintained. The brain department must be there. So Prabhupada's invoking an analogy that he's used quite a few times, that the Brahmanas represent the brain, that the arms, the protective division, are the Kshatriyas. The belly, the Vaishyas, because they're responsible for producing food for society, is the stomach, and the Shudras, who support the other classes nicely, they're the legs. The brain department must be there. Without brain, suppose a madman, he has got his hands and legs, but it is useless because the brain is lost. So brain must be there. All the divisions should exist, he said, and there must be an educational institute to teach people the duties and qualities of their respective roles, right, in the Varna Ashram system. So in this way, as there is necessity of engineer, as there is necessity of medical man, similarly a department of Brahmana, a department of Kshatriya, that education must be given. So Srila Prabhupada's great emphasis was on establishing Varnashram Dharma again in society so that people can be gradually elevated towards the Parangatim. And integral to this is the establishment of a Brahmana class, a proper Brahmana class to guide others properly. So it doesn't mean that the way that we do this, and we can understand that clearly now from all our discussions, is just by initiating everybody into the Brahmana ashram. It doesn't work like that. We have to produce Brahmanas of quality. Right? Shamo, Damaha, Tapaha, Shocham. Those are people who are qualified to lead society, whether they're initiated or not. But in this age, because nobody is interested, so everyone is Shudra. Kalau Shudra Sambhavaha. Everyone all over the world, they are being educated to seek after some good service. Again, the reason why exchanging money for service makes one a Shudra. Therefore, in the Shastra it is said that everyone is anxious to get a good job. Therefore, Kalau Shudra Sambhavaha. In this age, almost everyone is Shudra. So if Shudras are there only, there is no Brahmana, no Kshatriya, no Vaishyas, and that society will not prosper very much. Right? So once again, we are proof of that. Our society is proof of that. As a final point, he added that it is a person's qualities and actions rather than their birth which decide the division of society they belong to. Brahmanas especially require education, Vedic literature, Patan, Jajan, Jajan, Dana, Pratigraha. Kshatriya also requires education. Others, they may not require education, only practical training. These things should be introduced. Then human society will be perfect, not by birth, but by quality, by education, by training. But that is possible. So the ministers appreciated this talk very much. They offered their respects. They actually touched their heads to Prabhupada's lotus feet, and then afterwards the meeting concluded. Then Srila Prabhupada met a small group of devotees who had been coming to the temple. This temple in Hyderabad was, I think, one of the only temples in South India that was opened personally by Srila Prabhupada, if not the only. So they have three sets of deities, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, and Gaur Nitai. Srila Prabhupada's class was a wonderful lecture from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 1. He focused, as he has in many of his talks since coming here, on the importance of deity worship and coming to the temple. So this is an interesting point because Balaji himself, right, who is very much revered in that region, he's a deity. And he's a deity. He's the personality of Godhead who then transformed himself into a deity who is no less the personality of Godhead for people to worship in Kali Yuga. So what's going to be your next argument? The process of attaining God realization in this age is Sankirtan Yagya. So did Balaji get his age wrong? Because he's specifically descended in Kali Yuga. So the understanding that we have is that deity worship is a very important adjunct to chanting Hare Krishna. Because it's very, very easy for us who are conditioned into this impersonalist doctrine and have such a tendency towards it because of our need and want to actually become gods ourselves, or use Krishna's words and everything for that matter to justify that, to then actually also approach the holy names in an impersonal way. If there's no form attached to it, there's no person attached to it, then we'll chant it the way people, with all due respect, just chant Om and think of the light. That's kind of what's happening now. All mantras are all the same. It's all eventually supposed to guide you to the light, and that's what people do. They don't explain why there's so many variety. Why do you need so much variety of mantras if it's all just going to be the same in the end anyway? For that matter, why do you need so many personalities, so many devatas in the pantheon? The light could just do everything. Srila Prabhupada has explained that variety is essential because individuality is is non-negotiable in the spiritual stratum, what to speak of here, right? And when it comes to the name of Krishna, we need as much help as possible to remember him as a person and to develop our relationship with him as a person. And this deity worship, even though it's being, it's actually not the process for this age, it's helping us to do that. It's helping us to do that. So it's not just a focal point, which is actually what Mayavadis use the deity form for, but it is the way that Krishna can present himself to us when we're in this very contaminated state. And then when we become more purified by the chanting, then we see him exactly as he is in his deity form, as well as in his holy name and in everything. That's how the process works. So the worship of Lord Balaji and the method of chanting is given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are not at odds with each other. They're synergistic. That's how we need to approach it. So in that line, Srila Prabhupada is explaining the meaning of the word Bhagavan. He explained that Bhagavan can only be understood by the mercy of Bhagavan. Right? Then he looks across the beautiful deities and says, if you come to the temple daily and you see the transcendental form, Satchid Ananda Vigraha of Bhagavan, this Bhagavan is not different from the original Bhagavan. And you shouldn't think that this is stone Bhagavan. As Srila Prabhupada said previously, if you think he's stone, then he'll always remain stone to you. And if you understand that even though you can't yet see him as a person, but he is a person, then because of your sincerity and your practices, particularly chanting, in time he will reveal himself to you. He expressed his pleasure at the steady attendance at the programs since the temple has opened. I'm very glad that the inhabitants of Hyderabad, they are so nice devotees. So he encourages them to keep coming and see the Lord. Bhagavan does not want anything from you. He is self-sufficient. Aishwaryasya samagrasya. But if you give something to Bhagavan, it is love. Dadati pratigrihnati. You are taking so many things from Bhagavan, and if you give something, what is the wrong? It is an exchange of love. So people are sometimes afraid that Krishna is going to expect everything from them. But the truth is that he needs nothing from anybody. Eventually, because of progress in spiritual life, one actually gives up all the attachments naturally. And if one doesn't or isn't ready for that, he's not going to take that away from someone. Krishna doesn't need anything from us. This is what Srila Prabhupada is saying. He just wants your bhakti. If you bring little leaf, little flower, little fruit and little water, Bhagavan, I am a very poor man, I have nothing to give you, but I have kindly secured from others' gardens a little leaf, a little flower and little fruit, and water is available, so kindly accept it. And if Bhagavan eats from your hand, then you become perfect. Not that there's ever an opportunity to become God, become perfect that way, but to become godly, like we said. That is wanted, bhakti. That attachment should be increased. Maya sakta manaha partha yogam yunjan mad ashrayaha. This is real yoga, how to become attached to the service of the Lord. That's the first class yogi. Srila Prabhupada, he then explains how one can develop this attachment to Krishna. Naturally, he said, if you practice to come here and see daily at least once, you'll be able to think of Krishna. Mad gaten antar atmana. If you continue thinking that Krishna, how he's standing, how he's playing on his flute, how Radharani is here, manmanaha. In this way, if you think, then you will become the greatest yogi. That is wanted. So the temple is a facility how to become the first class yogi and how to become the first class devotee simply by increasing your attachment. So even though our Mr. Raju has correctly said that we don't emphasize rituals, right? But we're emphasizing that in the course of our worship to Krishna, we'll actually become attached to him. That the focus is on the chanting, but the worship is an assistance so that we can become purified in the chanting, eventually, and like we said, realize Krishna everywhere. To develop our attachment to him, the specific point Srila Prabhupada is bringing up here. This is key. And he told the pastime of one Brahmana who was so attached to seeing Lord Ram that when he didn't see the Lord for a few days, he actually didn't eat. He would only eat if he saw the Lord. He would break a fast, daily fast. So when Lakshman brought this to Ram's attention that this Brahman actually hasn't eaten because he hasn't seen you, then Lord Ram gave him a deity. A deity, coincidentally, that had been worshipped in Lord Ram's family of Lord Ram and Mother Sita. So this is, of course, because the Lord's pastimes are eternal, and therefore he is revered eternally. So this deity form was given to the Brahmana because seeing the deity is non-different from seeing Krishna. So in that way, he wouldn't have to starve when he didn't see the Lord. So there is no difference between the deity and the Lord. They're the same. Even this chanting of the name of the Lord is the same. But let's be honest, it's a lot harder for us to see the name the same as the Lord. It's a lot easier for us to see the form. So it helps us in our meditation, because this meditation, manmana, is so important. He said that the progress of devotional service means to gradually come to the position of asakti or attachment, and gradually Krishna will reveal himself. You cannot understand God without revelation. So on account of your attachment, he reveals himself. So this realization we've already spoke about before. It's essential in spiritual life. We can't actually just pick up the scripture and read it and think that we have the ultimate understanding of it. Krishna becomes revealed as much as you want to know Krishna. If you're using the knowledge of Krishna for yourself in any way, even the smallest way, he just won't reveal himself. There will be no realization. That's how it goes. Right? It's not because he's being spiteful, but he's reciprocating with that thing we spoke about in the beginning called independence. You have your independence to know him or not know him. If you don't really want to know him and you just want to read the scripture to sound clever, so he'll allow you to do that, and he won't reveal himself. Right? So the thing about realization is it's not an external event of reading, it's an internal understanding. And it comes from the super soul, from him. This is what Buddhi Yoga is actually about. Then he described how all the signs of devotion can develop just by coming to the temple on a regular basis. Ado Shraddha, right? Faith in the beginning. This is a temple, let us go and see. And we have to increase this faith, right? Sadhu Sangha. Here the sadhus engaged in Krishna service. And if you associate with them, you'll see the arti, all the processes, that's association. Bhajana Kriya, this is hearing, that's bhajan. And if you join the chanting, that's also bhajan. Then anartha nivritti syat, all kinds of anarthas or unwanted things will be finished, you'll be purified. Tato nishta ruchis tataha ashaktihi. Then there will be nishta, or firm faith. Then there will be taste. You cannot remain at home without coming at least once to the temple. That is called ruchi. Then asakti, that asakti is required. So the taste is not for the Sunday love feast prasad. That's not the reason why we should make sure we come to the temple. This is a natural taste, whether you get prasad or not. Right? That's when you know you actually have taste for coming to the temple, when you're actually getting nothing out of it in any way. We have to relinquish this along with every other material attachment. It's like a glass. You can't, if it's full, you can't put any more water into it. If you have any kind of material desires, not just full of material desires, but even a little, you actually can't put attachment to Krishna in there. So if you want to develop that attachment, you have to take to the process. Again, nobody's saying give up everything. Take to the process, and as your detachment occurs, whether you actually physically have to give up anything or not, because that's not always required, but your attachment to Krishna will grow as your material attachments decrease. Right? Again, not necessarily losing them, but decreasing your attachment to what you have. And that's how your attachment to Krishna will grow. And yeah, Krishna will guide you from within, but you really have to want to hear from him. Okay, so thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Any questions or comments? Sorry, I went over. Actually, I didn't go over. We started a few minutes late. Any comments or questions or corrections? Okay. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.